Every person ought to be free. Look at your neighbor and tell him you're free to plant a seed. You may have to water the seed with tears. You may have to maintain the seed with anxieties. You may have to watch the seed grow with wonder. But if you have a dream of planting a seed, whatever you do, whether you live or die, the seed and the dream will live on. This is one of the things that Dr. Martin Luther King taught us. And regardless to what man, women, laws, or legislation does, we know for a fact, according to Dr. Martin Luther King, it is God who is ultimately in control. You're welcome to Highland on this great day. To World Arts Foundation, hats off to you and all of Portland Metropolitan and the state of Oregon and the United States of America. Highland, let's let them know God is in control.
Hello, Governor Kate Brown here. I invite you today to find inspiration with Keep Alive the Dream, a historical film featuring Black and African American communities in Oregon, honoring the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The World Arts Foundation compiled this documentary for its 37th annual tribute by digitally transferring archived program content from decades of celebrations. It is the Foundation's hope that this effort will help preserve the legacy of local pioneers, activists, community leaders, business owners, artists, and youth whose valiant efforts have left lasting impacts in Oregon. As we work together to build a safer, stronger, and more equitable Oregon, I'm committed to honoring Dr. King's legacy by putting Black, Indigenous, Latino, Latina, Latinx, Asian, Pacific Islander, communities of color, and Oregon's tribes at the forefront of our recovery. When it comes to racial justice, words are not enough. Actions matter. And it's long past time we take decisive anti-racist action here in the state of Oregon. I know we can dismantle the institution of racism the same way it was built, brick by brick. I'm so proud of the work that is happening across the state as we focus on racial justice and closing opportunity gaps. While there is so much work left to be done, my hope is that in the future, race will no longer predict people's outcomes. This truly was Dr. King's vision of America, and today we honor him by continuing the work. Thank you.
Keep Alive the Dream features Oregon's African American community paying tribute to the work of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This film explores Dr. King's mission to promote peace, justice, civil rights, and human dignity for all. It features performances from musicians, actors, orators, public officials, and youth who've participated with the World Arts Foundation Incorporated. Since 1985, this annual production has connected performing artists, educators, and community leaders with diverse communities in Oregon. Don't miss footage from the archives, musical performances, and exclusive interviews, only found in Keep Alive the Dream.
In 1859, Oregon became the first state to enter the Union with an exclusion law written into its constitution. When the law was repealed over half a century later, we came from all around the United States to work. The city of Vanport was built on the outskirts of Portland. It provided houses and a community for us. But when the city was flooded, we lost our homes and our way of life. Settling in Portland, we fought in a battle for civil rights which continues today. What began with the struggle for fair employment, public accommodations, and fair housing in the 1950s soon gave way to civic disinvestment in our neighborhoods and police brutality toward our people. We lived in a part of Portland they called Albina. It was the only place in Oregon the banks would loan you money for a home or to start a business. Here, a community with over 200 black-owned businesses developed quickly, but soon began to decline. These businesses, which lined the major thoroughfares of Union Avenue, Williams Avenue, and Mississippi Street, disappeared, while city-backed projects like the Memorial Coliseum, Interstate 5, and the expansion of Emmanuel Hospital forced black residents out of their homes. As our people aged and property values increased, the foundation for gentrification was laid, dismantling our community. Systems of oppression in the state of Oregon have erased much of our legacy. As with many black communities around the world, the work of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. embodies our struggle for peace, social justice, and human dignity for all. That is why we come together. That is why we keep alive the dream.
In 1978, our community came together to celebrate the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We brought educators, speakers, and performing artists to the stage. This was our outlet to understand what it means to be black in the state of Oregon. Now, this was before there was a federal holiday to recognize Dr. King. We couldn't wait. We needed our children to understand the world that they were about to inherit.
I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted. Every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to go to church together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring.
We have been trying to live his dream of peace, justice, and prosperity, but we seem to be sliding back into nightmare. Maybe sliding is the wrong word. Maybe I should say we are being pushed into a nightmare. The same thing happened right after the Civil War. When there was some federal protection, African Americans moved into positions of responsibility and made strides in self-help that we have yet to equal in that same period of time. But a few short years after those advances, white America moved to reshuffle the deck to create an America that was separate and viciously unequal. We are reliving that era right now. What I'm saying is that the fundamental racism which this country delighted in for 400 years, that fundamental white racism which created the conditions I just mentioned, that racism, that nightmare was never really dealt with. And that was Dr. King's dream, was for America to deal with that. America decided it wanted to put a man on the moon, it put a man on the moon. There has not been that kind of commitment to rooting racism out of the heart of the citizens of this country.
Dr. Matthew Prophet, retired superintendent from Portland Public Schools, once shared with his students and with his staff, it's not so important what happens to you. What's more important is what happens within you.
As we celebrate Dr. King's birthday, I hope we don't forget what made this possible. A few years ago, we weren't able to have this day off. Now, if you remember, there were people like Stevie Wonder, people like Jesse Jackson that led a demonstration in Washington, D.C. on this day for several years, demanding that King's birthday be made a national holiday. I hope that we don't forget that, so that in years to come we assume that it was always like this. Frequently we get bad memories. I hope we always remember what made it possible for people in the state of Oregon who are state workers to have this day off. People like John Garlington, Margaret Carter, they were the people who were putting the pressure on the governor at that time that said that Dr. King's birthday should be celebrated by the state of Oregon. So when we celebrate this day, I hope that we always remember that there were a lot of people that made this possible. And speaking of faulty memories, in celebrating this day, oftentimes I think that we forget what it was like when the civil rights struggle started. And too frequently we don't tell our children that when King led this movement, it was not possible for black people to walk into a restaurant in many states in this country and get a meal, that you had to go to the back door, that I don't care how much education you had, you could not get a decent job. You had black people with master's degrees, PhDs, working in a post office because they couldn't get anything else. That during that period of time that we could not vote, that during that period of time black children could not go to excellent schools. So when we begin to talk about King, don't forget what it was like during that time, and the fact that it's different today did not happen automatically, that a lot of people worked very hard and paid some heavy dues for us to exercise the few freedoms that we have today. My only point in saying that is this, that those of us who are here today, we can do no less than what was done for us yesterday. All of those people, when you watch those films and you see those people in those demonstrations, when you see those little kids in Birmingham, when they turn the water hoses on them, when they sick the dogs on them, those were the people who made it possible for us to do what we're doing today.
In the mid-1980s, the third Monday of January was designated as a state and federal holiday, observing the life and legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Since that time, we have gathered in Albina each year to celebrate history, tradition, and life. We recognize those who have made lasting impacts in our community and celebrate their achievements.
You've heard a lot about Dr. King, but Dr. King only comes alive in individuals like these, and he can come alive in individuals like you. Here's a synopsis of who they are and of who you can become. Become sensitive about the humanity of others. Get a good education. We have so many teachers and educators up here. Unravel the political process of your country. your state, the federal government, become a part of it. Honor diversity, work to eradicate the injustices by becoming involved. Understand that these individuals represent servant leadership and are weaving the community fabric that you will be a part of today and in the future. Thank you, honorees, for your commitment to change and your reflection of Dr. Reverend Martin King.
In honoring the efforts of Martin Luther King, we must recognize that the dream lives on in the parents of the children that will make up our future. We must give recognition to the foundation, to the seed of the universe, that is mothers and fathers. Dr. King's dream will truly be a reality when we give credit where credit is due. When we look at the tears in a mother's eye and the ache in a father's heart and wondering what will the future be for their children. We asked ourselves here in Portland, Oregon, will there be a future for the little ones? Red, black, white, brown, and yellow. Every parent wonders, what will the future hold for my children? And we say the dream lives on. The dream is within the heart of the universe of people for hope. We look at employment, the opportunities that we must provide for our children. Those that are homeless, we must embrace and make sure shelter is abound for all. We must look at our heroes, not just nationally, but locally, those who are paying the price. One such hero has fallen just recently, Reverend Garlington. The dream must keep on, for we have a responsibility to look in every child's face and tell them that there will be a future. Mothers and fathers, we are the heroes that they must look up to. We can't put a movie star before the camera and say, that is your hero. We can't put someone on the football field and say, that's your hero. Someone who run around the track and say, that's your hero. Because those who pattern after, they must pattern after us. And when every child looks at our face and wonder about hope and wonder about dreams, they look to us. We have a responsibility to make sure the dream that Martin Luther King fought and died for maintains. And we must embrace ourselves and fight the struggle in Portland, Oregon. Take up the challenge. The challenge is ours. It is not the responsibility of the schools. It is not the responsibility of the county and the city. It is our responsibility to ensure that they have dreams. But if we collectively bring our forces together, stand together and be counted together as parents, then our children can stand as high as any children in this world. We must embrace and tell the world that our children will have dreams for the future, because we will take up the banner and make sure hope and destiny becomes a part of the reality that we have provided. But the heroes that King talked about in his dream was the ones that must move forward in the universe. Mothers and fathers, you are the heroes of today. Give yourself praise and let the dream of King live on.
Young people have always played an important role in our program, from behind the scenes to the head of the stage. It has been vital for our youth to experience the reverence we have for one another on this day each year. To see the children participating is the most lasting joy we have, for we stand not only on the shoulders of those who came before us, but also those who are among us.
Talk about spiritual things, you know, it's like a seed, the soul. And when you put a seed in the ground, in order for the seed to grow, it has to thrust its roots into the earth and cling to the earth for its nourishment. But all the while, that seed is growing away from the dirt, and it's growing towards the sun. In the same way that we raise our children and we nourish them in this world, but we don't want them to become entangled in its materialism and in its sickness. We want them to grow away from this world and into the spiritual vision that our ancestors entrusted us with.
My earliest memory when I was introduced to the MLK tribute was 1982.
Now, when were you born?
1981.
Yes.
So I guess I was
Put that in context.
8 months old. And my dad brought me up on stage and he sang The Greatest Love of All to me with me in his arms.
Yeah.
And
so cute.
Just me having a little girl right now and just looking back on that moment was just so special, you know, in regards to the content of the song and just, you know, me looking up to my father and just coming full circle, you know, it's just truly a blessing.
Remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. Oh, the lonely place to be. And so I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live just I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity.
A couple years before, I remember just protesting when it was in high school to make it legal. So I know that when I was probably a junior or senior, we took the day off. We're not going. We're going to stand up and we're going to prepare for this to be a holiday. And I remember that. That was when I was a little girl, and then to fast forward to being able to be a part of the Youth Sound Choir and it was just such an awesome experience. And it was a community-based choir, so folks from all over the city were singing. It was wonderful.
We put together the Youth Sound Choir to demonstrate just how important arts and education are for our youth. Each year, we brought hundreds of students together in preparation for the program. After many months of rehearsal, Seeing these students perform, now that's powerful.
What Dr. King did with the marches on Selma, we know that what he wanted was for us to vote. Voting is really important. I can't vote right now, but the people who can, I encourage you to please continue to do that because it is really, really important for us, for our survival, really. Even with the midterms, even the small elections in your state, in your counties, it's all really important for us to take part in because that's what Dr. King fought really hard for us to do, especially as in the Black community.
I will rejoice. I will rejoice. I will sing again. I will rejoice. Say it again. Say it one more time. I will rejoice. I will rejoice. Say it, I will rejoice. I don't know about you tonight, but I will rejoice. He has made me glad. He has made me glad.
Music has always played a unique role in our lives. For some, it's just a hobby like anything else. But for others, it's an emotional and spiritual release from daily life. Each year, we bring together mass choirs of all ages, shapes, and sizes. Hearing all those voices together, you can really feel it. It's something that stirs the soul.
We've come this far by faith. It sustained us through just about everything that we experience in our lives. You see, when you worship, you lift up everyone around you, and it's just contagious.
I found the Lord when I won't forget. When I put down on my knees, I won't forget. Hey, take me back. I won't forget. Take me back. Back to the altar. Take me back when I found your favor. Take me back. I won't forget. One thing. Take me back. I won't forget. Take me back. I won't forget.
I bless the Lord at all times, all times. His grace shall continually be in me. Eternally. Good to me. Faithfully. I bless the Lord at all times, all times. His grace shall continually be in me. Eternally, good to me, faithfully. I bless the Lord at all times, all times. His grace shall continually be in me. Eternally, good to me, faithfully.
I love
sing. Love is beyond the silver cord, behind your golden door unmarred, residing in your city of crystal light. Can you see it there and everywhere? Can't you see it there and everywhere? Residing in your city of crystal light, behind your golden door unmarred, beyond the silver cord, there is love.
To school in Oakland, California, and I was in jazz workshops there, and there were times when the teacher would make comments, very chauvinistic comments about for example, Mary Lou Williams was a very good female musician. You know, you look at him kind of funny. He says, you know, there's another girl that was playing with me. I said, did you hear that? I said, yeah. But overall, it's something that I wanted to do, just to play music. And I really didn't prepare myself to do anything else but be in music. So it's a do or die situation with me.
My God is whole, perfect and strong. My God is whole, perfect and strong. My God is love and strong. Stay with him, he'll do no wrong. My God is whole, perfect and strong. Oh, the kingdom of God is at hand. The kingdom of God is at
I know for me, I always enjoyed African dance. Like, that was my favorite thing. It was just to see year after year the different dances, the groups that were coming.
I didn't come here first as like a musician or anything. Back when I was in SEI, Mr. Keith Dempsey started a junior Kappa's club. And we used to go to Jeff in our red and white with our canes strapped all tight. And we used to be stepping on the stage and to see the whole kind of Black Portland just come out and cheer us on and encourage us as young elementary, and middle schoolers. That was my first taste of just having a crowd like support you and roar for you.
Following in King's footsteps, we knew it was our task to make space for all races and creeds. The value of multicultural collaboration is that it exposes our differences and promotes a deeper understanding of one another. In the words of Dr. King, ours is a network of mutuality tied to a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. In other words, it's teamwork that makes the dream work.
There was a connection between Dr. King and my grandfather. A lot of people believe that they met and knew each other personally, but they had no meetings at all because they were both born at a different time and worked at a different time. By the time Dr. King became an adult to take over the leadership of the African American community, my grandfather had already been assassinated. But it was after the Montgomery bus boycott that in 1959, the government of India invited Dr. King and his family to come over to India as guests of the government and meet with people who had lived with my grandfather and worked with them, and learn from them what the philosophy of nonviolence is. And he came with the whole family and spent more than a month there and learned that nonviolence is not just a strategy of convenience. Nonviolence is a way of life. We have to become nonviolent ourselves. We have to become the change that we wish to see in the world. If it doesn't incorporate in our lives, then we can't be nonviolent one moment and violent the next moment. It has to be part of our life. And what does it mean to live nonviolently? It means that we live with love and respect, understanding, acceptance, appreciation, and compassion for human beings.
I think that as a part of that economic dream, that wealth dream that Dr. King was talking about, we've got to put the fire back under corporations again in terms of their negligence of not bringing young people on and giving them job opportunity. We used to have something that we call summer programs, okay? And if these corporations don't do nothing but bring about summer programs, the sacrifice need to be made, and if they don't, then we need to again take to the streets against corporations. And yes, I am saying get in the streets against corporations, because that's where the economic well-being is. And for our young people, please stop killing each other and try to kill the instinct of not feeling good about who you are, because this country, this economic system that we had is what's keeping you from having opportunity, not your young brothers and sisters that you walk with daily.
You got to take a breath on that one.
If we're to realize Dr. King's vision of peace, social justice, and dignity for all, we must keep alive the dream for generations to come. We must continue to lift our voices till victory is won.
Like
Greg McKelvey. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day.